Well, shaking, folks. Back with another reaction, back with some more Eurythmics. And we're going to start going through some bonus tunes included in an expanded folder for the 1985 album Be Yourself Tonight. Once again, big shout out to Philip. And the first of these bonus tunes is called Grown Up Girls. It seems to have that dynamic where it's maybe suggesting that even as women, become adults and enter that world, which can be confusing and dangerous and scary, and again, maybe particularly for girls, which makes me think about Depeche Mode's Question of Time. But yeah, maintaining perhaps some aspect of their personality or the way they see the world, or their emotional configuration that is still youthful, that is still meaningfully a girl. It makes me think of that line from Be Cool when John Travolta's character says, he calls Evie, the character, a girl, and she's like, what, like, I'm older now, you still think I'm a girl? He's like, oh, you'll always be a girl. It makes me think of that kind of dynamic. So yeah, it could be about, fending for yourself in the world of adults and grown-up issues, but, not letting it change who you are inside and who you've been since you were younger. So yeah, that's what it makes my brain think of. I do enjoy there has to be something going on with ages and the concept of growing up. Indeed, it might even be about that process, about coming of age, which makes me think of Depeche Mode's Question of Time. So yeah, curious to hear where this one will be. But it also sounds like, when I think of Annie Lennox, I think of this powerful vocalist who often will offer her emotions in a very striking way vocally. So if anything, it sounds confident, not like vulnerable or worried. It sounds like, I may be in the adult world now, but I'm still who I've always been. So we'll see if any of that has any relevance. Let's find out. This is Eurythmics. The track is Grown Up Girls, and it's a bonus tune included in an expanded folder for the 1985 album Be Yourself Tonight.
Parce que ce soir, il y a plein de temps. Danse comme si on peut. Parce que cette nuit sera super. Mes yeux sont des larmes, je peux rien ensemble. Et je regarde dans ton regard.
Space age in. I like these low synth brass strokes.
Your heart will break. Dance, dance. This is your heart will break.
Interesting.
Dance, dance.
That's cool.
Dance, dance. Dance, dance.
Again, Annie, like close-up, true voice, futuristic sounding Annie, backing Annie.
Dance, dance. You look so different.
synth test tubes are bubbling.
Dance, dance. Grown up girls. Come see the don't exist again. Dance, dance. Grown up girls. Come see the don't exist again. Dance, dance. Grown up girls. Come see the don't exist again. Dance, dance. Grown up girls. Come see the don't exist again.
Still not quite sure, like in the essence. I mean, it does sound like maybe on some level, you know, it is about like, you know, maintaining who you are despite dealing with grown-up issues. But I'm not quite sure, and it's another one where like I'm so stunned by what's going on vocally that I don't always hear the words clearly. Now, in this case, there were a couple of the Annie vocal types that had some like effect or digitization on them, so it felt like or like, you know, analog manipulation. So it felt like maybe I didn't hear some of the lines clearly, not necessarily because I was so keyed in on the vocal itself, but that it actually was a little, you know, not muffled, but less clear. But then there was the part maybe like 2/3 into the track where suddenly, boom, it was like clear voice Annie, loud and central, like right in the middle of the track. So I enjoyed that moment in particular. And again, I love the way Dave uses Annie's voice in so many different renderings, although this was, you know, perhaps an extreme example, like even more than some other tunes I've heard, though maybe not the most. There's a couple where like I couldn't even handle it, but I was like, wait, I'm like in an Annie like whirlwind right now. But this one did have a lot of different layers of her voice. It felt a little more bleepy, like a little more, I don't know, like Vince Clarke-y in some of the synths. Like it had that like very like telegraph or like computer language, like driving synth layer. There were a couple other that were almost like, you know, synth xylophone, but they were sort of like rapid fire hits too. So it had, again, a bit more computery, bleepy, bloopy feel than some of the other Eurythmics tunes. So a cool one, maybe one that I get because it was a bit more like dance oriented, which is funny. Like there were the lines about like, you know, dancing and dancing, but it was something about heartbreak too. So I don't know if it was like, you know, keep dancing in that youthful way like a girl, even if you have your heart broken in the grown-up world, is like maybe the best that I could try to stitch together. But yeah, like I said, I enjoyed the composition of the tune, even if it felt like a little bit outside their you know, their normal, like, let's say, wheelhouse. But fair to say, you know, I'm a big fan of Vince Clarke, so when I make that comparison and say that it's a bit more bleepy and bloopy, that's not a bad thing in my book. So but yeah, again, maybe I understand why it wasn't an album track, because it feels a bit more abstract than some of the tracks on this record, which, fair to say, Be Yourself Tonight, it did feel like there was a bit more of a pop hit kind of feel to some of the tracks, whereas like on a couple of the previous albums like Touch and Sweet Dreams, it felt like, you know, in retrospect, you know, Here Comes the Rain Tonight and Sweet Dreams, these are just like legendary 80s tunes. But it, you know, I imagine in the context, and even though I was alive, I was too young to like really appreciate this, but I imagine like there was a like, oh, this is sort of, you know, new and fresh and dynamic, but so like it had a bit more of maybe like an experimental feel to it, whereas again, this album that we've just gone through the proper part of has felt a bit more like, okay, so now they're kind of fine-tuning and polishing it a little bit and making it a bit more like, boom, that's a hit track. So either way, whether you agree with any of that, do let me know what you think of this one. I enjoyed it, even if I'm still not quite sure what's happening lyrically. And again, this is the first of several bonus tunes. So yeah, the only thing we have left on 1984 is an extended mix of Sex Crime, which, based on the file size, it feels like it's going to be like an 8 or 9 minute tune. It's like notably bigger than most of the other files in the folder. So we'll do that one soon, but maybe I'll go through a few of these before we get there. So in any case, let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.